We have a dual threat storm system moving across the United States this week. We start off with the wintry side, where this storm could be dumping 6 to 8 inches across much of the Central Plains and even into the Chicago metropolitan area. But we also have a severe threat at the same time, impacting areas such as Dallas-Fort Worth, Little Rock, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, all the way up into Buffalo, New York. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk of severe thunderstorms from Alabama all the way up to Buffalo, New York for Thursday. And that's not even regarding Wednesday, which could see a major tornado and hail outbreak impacting Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Let's start off here with the winter weather. So right now we have a storm system moving across the U.S. This is the main storm that we're going to be talking about, but it does set the stage, right? We have this wintry weather moving through Las Vegas, into Flagstaff, Arizona, and into the Four Corners region throughout the day on Tuesday. Now, as this happens, we are going to see that whole storm system eject into the southern plains. This is also where our severe threat starts. So as the storm system moves into Kansas, Nebraska, even the panhandle of Oklahoma, we have moderate to heavy snowfall, especially in the panhandle there. But this storm system is also going to start to pull up that Gulf moisture. And as it does that, we are going to see a lot more different types of wintry precipitation. We have sleet starting to develop into Kansas, and we have this heavier snowfall starting to develop into Kansas as well. Now, this is right around, let's call that 2 a.m. Thursday morning. We see heavy snowfall moving into Kansas City. And as this storm system continues to move through, Kansas City could be one of those cities that could take a crack at 8 inches of snowfall. Now, as this storm system starts to move into Chicago here right around 8 a.m. on Thursday, you can see that we also have freezing rain starting to develop into Indiana. Light freezing rain, mostly freezing drizzle, but could still make those roads a bit slick. And Chicago starts to get into some heavy snowfall here right around 10 a.m. Or that's actually noon, sorry. So noon on Thursday. And the storm system eventually moves out of Chicago here right around 6 p.m. and into Detroit, Michigan, and eventually the whole system is out by Friday. So let's move on here to the Weather Prediction Center, and let's see how much snow you could possibly be getting from this system. So here is the Weather Prediction Center, and this is the 72-hour forecasted snowfall. This is the 50th percentile. So this is right on the average. This is pretty much what you should see. So we have this green and blue area. Let's go through them all together. So you start off with this very bright green. That is 1 to 2 inches of snowfall. We move into this medium green. That is 2 to 4 inches of snowfall. And then into this dark green. That is 4 to 6 inches of snowfall. And you can see that in some of these areas, that gradient between nothing and 4 to 6 inches of snow is very, very tight, such as here in Iowa, where you have just maybe about 50 miles and you have nothing or 4 to 6 inches of snowfall with this system. Same thing happens right around Kansas City. Just south of Kansas City, you're not getting anything. But right into Kansas City, you could see, 2 to 4 inches, 4 to 6 inches. And then into Kansas, Nebraska, you're into 6 to 8 inches. So these are the areas where you could be seeing boom or bust snowfall potential. Now we get into these two blue colors here. This dark blue, that is 6 to 8 inches of snowfall. And these spots of medium blue, that is 8 to 10 inches of snowfall. 8 inches is kind of going to be the benchmark here, right? If you get above 8 inches of snowfall, you're kind of overachieving with this storm a little bit. The average here is going to be in that 6 to 8 inch range for the real winners of this system. And of course, you have mountain snowfall out here in Colorado where you could see a foot, maybe 15 inches of snowfall. But in the mountains, you really set that as the bar. You know, a lot of these mountainous regions, they measure the snow in feet, not inches. So that's fairly normal. But into the Chicago area, you have that tight gradient as well. You know, Gary, Indiana could see that 1 to 2 inch range, but just north of Chicago, along the Illinois-Wisconsin line, you could be seeing 6 to 8 inches of snowfall. And same thing in Michigan. Detroit, probably not going to see a lot. But you move into northern Michigan, and you get that 6 to 8 inches of snowfall. And that is where much of the uncertainty is, too. We have a very thin band of snowfall here. Does it move north, south, and how does that affect Chicago, Kansas City, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Lansing, all of those cities, because of how tight that gradient is going to be between a half a foot of snow or nothing. So here is the Weather Prediction Center's probability of seeing 8 inches of snow or more. And you can see that many of these areas that had that 6 to 8 inch mark is right around 30 to 50% chance of seeing 8 inches of snowfall. So you can see that in this dark green color here, which includes just outside of Milwaukee, also includes portions of central lower peninsula of Michigan. These are the areas that have a 30 to 40% chance of receiving 8 inches of snow. And into Iowa, over Lake Michigan, and down towards Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska, that is where you have that 40 to 50% chance of seeing 8 inches of snowfall. So again, even the areas in that thin band are not guaranteed snow. And if we go here to the probability of seeing 2 inches of snowfall, you can see that many areas really start to come into play. Even Detroit, Kansas City, really starting to get into it there. Then back all the way into Denver, almost a guarantee that you see an inch there. But many different areas that have a pretty good shot of seeing 2 inches there. So definitely going to be a really hard system to predict where is that thin line of precipitation going to end up. So let's move on here to the severe side of this storm, which is actually a bit more interesting than the wintry side. So let's talk a little bit about our severe threat. Starting off with the severe threat on Wednesday, here is the Storm Prediction Center. We have a slight risk of severe thunderstorms from Dallas-Fort Worth all the way down towards central Louisiana, through Memphis, Tennessee, and up into the boot heel of Missouri and western Kentucky. We have a 5% chance of tornadoes in most of that region, a 15% chance of winds above 58 miles per hour, and a 15% chance of hail in these regions. So let's take a look at the HRRR here and see where these thunderstorms could occur. So we have this current line of thunderstorms moving through most of Oklahoma, Texas, dealt with that on Tuesday. Now, as this system moves out, we start to see some of these thunderstorms here in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana start to move towards the north. We call these renegade thunderstorms. And as they do so, they could use the moisture getting pulled up from the Gulf as this main low pressure system ejects into the southern plains, right? The same setup that we talked about in the wintry section of this video, to really start to draw in that moisture, draw in that energy, and could produce severe thunderstorms and even tornadoes. But we also have a line of thunderstorms that's going to develop along the dry line. So the eastern part of this system, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, it's drawing up moisture from the Gulf, and it is very moist there, very humid, kind of groggy. But in the desert Southwest, it is very, very dry. So the difference where we have dry air and warm air, as the dry air moves to the east, it's going to kick up that moisture, and that's where you have a better chance of having severe thunderstorms. So this line of thunderstorms, that dry line, moves through Dallas-Fort Worth, through even maybe Tulsa, but mostly southeastern Oklahoma. And those renegade cells really start to develop into the early morning hours of Thursday in the boot heel of Missouri, western Kentucky, Memphis, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana. And as this line of thunderstorms starts to move through, that's just another round, another chance for tornadoes to form in this area. But that is where we move into Thursday. But first, I want to talk about the overall setup here. So this is the significant tornado parameter. So the higher the numbers here, the more likely you could have a tornado form in your area. I overlaid the Storm Prediction Center here, as well as the darker this purple shade, that is the more wind shear there is. So the more wind shear that you have vertically is a better chance of seeing a tornado pop up. So, right, in this region here, we have a lot of chance for tornadoes in the DFW area. That is right around a 3 out of 10. So that's like a 30% chance of seeing tornadoes. Now, as you move into Louisiana, right, you have a 40% chance, a 4 out of 10. And even into the boot heel of Missouri and western Kentucky, you are in that 1 to 2 range, so a 10 to 20% chance of seeing tornadoes. Now, I also have these little splotches here. These are just areas that could be hot spots, and I'm thinking here that Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, even back into Dallas-Fort Worth and southeast Oklahoma could be your hotspots. But don't count out the boot heel of Missouri and western Kentucky for some of that action as well. But now let's move into Thursday, which could be either a really big tornado threat, but definitely going to be a severe weather threat from Gulf to Great Lakes. So here is the Storm Prediction Center again looking at Thursday, and you can see that this slight risk is huge. It stretches from the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and Alabama all the way up to Lake Erie, even close to Buffalo, New York. Now, just a reminder, it is February, so this is extremely abnormal. But because of the track of this low pressure, this is more likely. So we just have our slight risk here. Now some major cities in this risk: Indianapolis, Columbus, Ohio, Nashville, Tennessee, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. So these are the areas that could be seeing severe thunderstorms. Now, the area that I would bet the most on for tornadoes is down here in Mississippi and Alabama, because they could tap into that Gulf moisture as well as that cold front moving through. So let's take a look here at the NAM, and we are going to track these thunderstorms. So as this first system moves out, we see these renegading thunderstorms moving into the boot heel of Missouri, western Kentucky, but we also have this warm front right here. And that could also generate some thunderstorms, but probably not as much. But as this low pressure moves to the north, we have this line of thunderstorms form all the way back into Louisiana, up through Tennessee, and that could be your main source of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes through today on Thursday for Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and even Kentucky. But as this line of thunderstorms starts to move to the east, we have it extend to the north as well into Ohio. Now, these are the areas where you really don't have a big difference in moisture, really don't have a big difference in temperature as well. It's pretty marginal, but these are the areas where you could see that convection pull up just because both of those marginal areas, right, marginal moisture difference, marginal temperature difference, are both there. Now, by marginal, I mean you're still going to be seeing a 30-degree difference here, but based on what we were seeing in Texas with that dry line, it's definitely a lot different here. So that is why I wouldn't bet on the Ohio up to Buffalo, New York area getting tornadoes as much as I would any area that's going to be seeing this line of thunderstorms in the south. Even don't count out Atlanta here either, could be seeing some of those severe thunderstorms. So what is the significant tornado values for this severe threat? Well, I have them up right here, and you can see that after Wednesday, right, we get into this other severe threat, and we're looking at mostly 1 to 3 on here. Probably the worst of which is, down in Mississippi, that's a 1.7. Up towards Kentucky, 1.9. And once you get up towards Columbus, Ohio, you're barely scratching 1. So that's why I would put Mississippi and Alabama up here for tornado chances and Ohio down here. So that is the entire severe threat. Definitely going to be one that's going to be very interesting, especially for February, because you can get those temperature differences even as far south as Mississippi and Alabama. I mean, we had some snow potential there just a few days ago. So definitely going to be a very intriguing storm to watch. And we're going to have to see how things play out with this severe threat. But that is all the information that I have for this dual threat storm system moving through the country towards the end of this week. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting that thumbs up button, as well as subscribing and hitting the bell so you never miss another weather update from me. As we move through a fairly wacky winter, we could be seeing a little bit more snow in the eastern U.S. I'm crossing my fingers as a snow lover myself. So stay tuned here for more weather updates. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.